All right, hello, and welcome to another short lecture on cybersecurity. There's going to be 2 weeks of cybersecurity, and we're going to focus more on the Mondale book. And it's a good book because it's very comprehensive and it's easy to read. Uh, International relations, security studies, cybersecurity is one of those new subjects that is going to be increasingly relevant to the international order. And primarily that's because of our dependence on cyber infrastructure. So everything that we do now is uses a computer, uses cell phones, uses the internet. Just think about your everyday life. You wake up in the morning, the first thing you grab, what? Your cell phone, right? You check the time, you go through your email, you go through your news for the day, the stocks. Um, you're reliant on this little device, which can be wiped out in a blink of an eye. This over reliance, even at the international level, between states, is incredibly profound. If you take a look at the internet cables that are across the sea and the ocean, um, if these were to go down, we would essentially be blind in many respects. So, this idea of cybersecurity, it adds to feelings of weakness and vulnerability because it is. And I think more needs to be done on that front. The amount of cyber attacks that take place within a day should alarm anyone. There's a lot of hacking and theft, espionage, all those sorts of things um, they make the news every day. These things make us extremely and extraordinarily insecure. Um, and one, just think of one EMP, electromagnetic pulse attack, would take out um, much of the economy. It would shut down the economy. And so, what can we do to prepare ourselves for this? Uh, that is the that's the puzzle. And if you've ever read any Department of Defense, Department of State budgets, you'll see that cybersecurity is one of those major parts of the budget. So there are to be um, jobs to be had in those areas, in those fields. So if you are in the field of cybersecurity, you're in a good field. You're in a growing field. It's a field that will continue to be relevant because of our dependency on cybersecurity. So if you are in security studies, you're not going to be learning about the ins and outs of what a computer is or what coding is. We're going to look at the political side, the the security side of it, specifically the ramifications of of a cyber attack, a virus, viruses, and all that good stuff. So the way I like to look at it, I look at the world historically. I'm a historian. I have a bachelor's degree in history from York University. Um, and primarily, when you think about cyber attacks, I think a good analogy would be the Trojan War, which is a mythical war in many regards. But the Trojans, they're very proud people. They're very I guess they have their gods, and the Trojan horse, the horse, is their symbol of strength. And so the Greeks, in all their wisdom, thought it best to put a little trick on the Trojans and present to them during the night a horse, a wooden horse, a large wooden horse, and the Trojans loved it. They looked at it and said, "This is a gift from the gods. We won this war against the Greeks. Let's take this bad boy into our city." And little did they know that inside the horse, that wooden structure, there were Greek soldiers, and you know while everybody was sleeping, those Greek soldiers emerged from inside the horse, and they opened the gates of Troy, and all the Greeks invaded, and basically that's what a cyber attack is. At its purest form, it's an infiltration, and these could be for espionage purposes, to spy on what you have on your computer. It could be for sabotage purposes, to destroy your infrastructure. Um, and if you look at the destructive purposes um, of cyber attacks, there's several examples. You can shut down a power grid. You can siphon. You can steal money. You can disrupt communications. You can cut off shipping, transport, fuel, and water. You can disrupt the stock market completely, and you can hijack a drone. So there's a lot of things you can do. Cyber attack. When it comes to cyber attacks, there's a lot you can do. And so here's a few examples of some cyber attacks. One is the DOS, the denial of service. So you basically attack a website, and you just overwhelm the website, and so you shut it down. In 2007, we had this happen to Estonia, Russian attack on Estonia, specifically targeting their ministries, their banks, their media, and this is because Russia was not pleased with some of its positioning vis-a-vis NATO. In 2008, during the Georgian-Russian war, you had a DOS attack on Georgia from Russia, and that really was part of the warfare of the war against Georgia. You also have regular hacking, infiltration, and DOS attacks between Pakistan and India. One of my favorites, though, one of my favorite moments is in 2010, the viral attack between that the United States and Israel did on Iran, targeting their nuclear facilities. So, the Stuxnet and Flame destroyed about 50% of all Iranian hardware. So, that really helped delay Iranian nuclear capability, and serves the interests of the United States and United States and Israel. You also have theft. So, anytime you think of theft, you have to think of why. Why would this be? Why is this an issue? When you think about theft, think about all the different things, all the different wonderful things that the United States has made. The F-35 fighter plane, multi-purpose, I think. They have the A, B, and C variants. Really cool stuff. The F-22. You have some tanks, some military vehicles. Russia stole that. China stole all of that, all those plans, and made their own versions, their own cheaper versions. I don't know if you know this, but the F-35 is a very expensive plane. I think it costs altogether $1 trillion from start to finish. And China stole that and made their own plane. All those plans, all that. China also steals Russian fighter plane specs and plans, to the research and development that goes into making these things, and they can produce planes and other such weapons in a much cheaper way, and so they have that advantage. Also, what I've come to realize is that the Chinese, some of the apps you download from the App Store. One such app called TikTok is a very dangerous one because they track your keystrokes. So let's say you sign into TikTok to do your little cringe video, and right next to you want to check your stocks. You put in your information to check your stocks. Well, because of the keystroke software that tracks the keystrokes, the Chinese government now knows your bank information, your account number, your password. They know everything. They can basically have that information. Even if you want to log into Facebook, they would have that information. So comes the keystroke tracking, but you also have phishing. You ever get an email about enter your password for $100 gift card, and that turned out to be from a different, not from that organization. That's an example of phishing because they want that information. They want your login information. There's also spy software, spyware, keeping track of your information. All the different things, the varieties of ways in which a one country can just keep track of your information. There was another great cyber attack back in the Soviet Union. Reagan wanted to put a little sabotage on the Soviet Union, so they hacked into the Soviet Union power grid, and they basically increased the pressure on a valve, and that caused an explosion. So it can cause physical damage. Cyber attacks might have the ability to cause actual physical damage. You can also hack a drone. You can bring down a drone, and the Iranians successfully did that for the first time, I believe, in 2011. Then next week we'll talk more about the NGO, the civilian sorts of criminal issues and hacktivism. That will be next week. So, in many regards, there's a lot of ways in which one country can gain power against another country. And so that's the main purpose of a cyber attack, is to gain a strategic advantage. In war, it is essential to get surprised. To have a surprise attack on your enemy is essential. And what you can do is you can launch a massive cyber attack against your enemy right before a full-scale invasion. So that's a good way to sort of overwhelm your opponent, confuse them, with denial of service attacks, or by just shutting down their computer system, and that way they'll be left unable to fight. You can do that through viruses and through worms, basically harming a computer system by exponential attack. So you use virus and worms that spread and destroy a computer system by making it basically worthless, by bricking it, as the people say. You can also insert incorrect coding. That way, it results in system failure. So you could go and corrupt their computer system. There's sign-in failures, authentication failures, and this may be due to interference, or maybe the server was compromised by an attack. Also, there's protocol failures, denial of use of application due to faulty protocol. We already talked about denial of service attacks, but also Trojan horses, worms, espionage. So the bottom line here is that the United States is in desperate need to secure itself from cyber attack, because if a country is somehow caught unaware of an impending cyber attack, then that could be a cyber attack may be the precursor or the beginning to a full-scale attack, which is altogether possible in this day and age with the existence of hypersonic missiles, which uses, they dodge and shift and go back and forth, and can evade radar and missile defense systems. So we're in a real bad state. And there's specific vulnerabilities that you have to look out for. In Taiwan, for instance, Taiwan produces the most high quality semiconductor chips. And these semiconductor chips are used on almost every facet of our existence, in all your cell phones, in planes, in cars. That's why we had the new car shortage last year and early this year, and maybe even now. Still, it's still a big thing. Um, and these issues of reliance on these chips that come from Taiwan expose a serious weakness in the United States. In that, if Taiwan is captured, or if China invades Taiwan and successfully destroys any Taiwanese, the pseudo independence, or I mean they're independent. If they destroy that independence, then the United States is going to be for worse. It will be worse off because they won't have access to these chips. So Taiwan is a national security issue because of the central importance of these chips, of these semiconductor chips. So if you are not aware of this vulnerability, it's everybody like seems to be talking about it, even though this thing was going on for many years beforehand. This reliance, but now Intel is creating a number of different factories in the United States to try to produce these semiconductors, and hopefully the United States would be able to become independent in the manufacture of those chips, because we need them. I think the democratic countries need them. Also, China needs them. So it's in Chinese interests to develop their own chips. So there is a race for these chips. Now, the thing about cyber attacks, this goes back to your rational choice theories, your mutually assured destruction ideas. Cyber attacks are cheap, right? You don't want to launch a nuclear weapon because the response will be an overwhelming nuclear response on you. So you don't want to do that. However, cybersecurity, cyber attacks, really cheap. I mean, how much does it cost to launch a cyber attack? Not much. You need some computers. You need some people to man those computers to launch a cyber attack. So they don't cost much. So cyber attacks are a cost-effective way of neutralizing your enemy, and because of this, the costs of attack are greater. Sorry, the costs of attack are smaller than the rewards. So the rewards are great, and the costs are very small, and that goes against the concept of mutually assured destruction, where the costs are huge and the benefits are small. And this is, of course, a materialist understanding of the world. So again, to come back to it, the difficulty then is how can they secure or deter cyber attacks? That's the difficult thing. That is the difficulty of the situation, right? So how does one create security? How can you battle or ensure that you're not attacked? That's at the center of the question. So what are the responses? Some of the responses that a state might take in order to protect your infrastructure. So the first one that many people look at is a military option. Hillary Clinton has suggested this. Colonels, Pentagon officials have suggested this, that if there was a cyber attack, that ultimately there could be a military response. So, taking out if Iran or China takes out the electrical grid, that the United States can respond by bombing the country. That would be, I think that's a bit too much. I don't think that is a good response, a reasoned and measured response. But it's something that people have said are on the table. When they say it's on the table, that means, all the options are on the table. I mean, what can I say? So, but I don't like that idea. I don't think it's a good one. But people have said it. I think a good response a good offense is a good defense. So how can you present to your enemy that there will be repercussions without exacerbating, without escalating the situation? Well, the first thing that could probably do is create backup servers. So if one server is taken down or if the electrical grid is attacked, then there would be an infrastructure that would kick in to save or create some stability, thereby minimizing the costs of attack, the economic costs of attack. Because again, if the electrical grid goes down, that means the economy is going to suffer a great deal. The stock market will crash. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We need everything running smoothly for there to be limited economic costs. So, one, that would be a good way. The second way is to maintain a um, the second way is to remain vigilant. So by all means, update your systems. Continue to train your employees, especially on the ones working in the defense industry, to make sure they don't answer phishing attacks. Tighten up the way information is transmitted and shared across networks. Just common sense, regular common sense policies. I had an idea. I published a piece not a very long time ago, about maintaining a virus wall. So instead of a firewall around your data, your secure data, if anyone were to break that firewall, because there's going to be weak points in your firewall, if you access the information, that information would be subject that information will be subject to um, a virus. So there's a virus that the now this is purely theoretical. The information that's protected by the virus wall would have the virus. So if there is an infiltration, that the computer system would then get the virus immediately, and this will shut down the perpetrator's, not just the perpetrator's computer, but you have to increase the costs. So it would spread rapidly throughout the country and destroy the entire country's cyber infrastructure. Again, purely theoretical, but this ties into this idea of increasing the costs of a cyber attack. And in that sense, you ensure some stability, and then you can offer your opponent, the person who attacked you, the antidote or the antivirus, update for the computer so they can fix their computer systems. And I think that would be a very cheap, cost-effective way of promoting some cybersecurity, right? Again, purely theoretical, but it has more to do with going to the core, cutting to the core of the seductive aspects of cyber attacks, which would be, of course, how cheap it is, right? It's cheap. Even North Korea has a cybersecurity bureau. I think it costs like $144 something thousand dollars to maintain a cyber bureau. All you need is a couple of individuals and a computer, and so per person, it would probably cost $140 something thousand dollars. One computer, one person, and boom, cyber attacks galore. So for just say take this for now. There's a lot to digest, but for next week, what we're going to talk about is so next week, what we'll talk about, part two, I'm going to talk about some of the criminal aspects of cyber security. But if you take a look at the readings, I think the readings will also be a good supplement to this lecture. It's a little bit of a complicated read, but it's important not just to it's important to understand the role of cyber attacks on security, international security, global security, human security. Thank you very much.